And I believe I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is the MMA Renegade podcast episode. I believe we're at 9. Episode 9. Elijah will be here shortly. We're gonna be talking about UFC. But I am here right now to talk about Bellator and the PFL. So let's get you guys in. Start the show in a second. We're at 10. We're supposed to start at 10:10, 10:13. So give you guys a couple of minutes. You haven't seen it. And we'll get started. Let's see here. Move this here. So, hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you're having a good morning wherever you are at, or a good evening, or wherever you are in the world. We'll be getting started in a couple of seconds. All right. Here we go. All right. So this weekend has been crazy. For content. If you love combat sports, if you love MMA, if you love even boxing, it's been a very, very interesting weekend. You know, we've had from Thursday, we had the PFL with boxing champion, boxing, becoming a boxing great, and Clarissa Shields making her MMA debut. Friday we had Bellator 260 with Douglas Lima, the Bellator welterweight champion, defending his championship. And then, Saturday, I think even Friday, that day, Friday, you had a celebrity boxing match with Lamar Odom and Aaron Carter. Saturday, you had with UFC 263, which you're going to talk about. You had boxers versus boxers. You had TikTokers versus YouTubers having it in the same day around the same time as the UFC prelim. So it's been a crazy, interesting week for combat sports, even a month really, because you had Mayweather versus Logan Paul earlier last week. You've had, like I said, TikTok versus YouTubers. You had celebrity boxing. You had boxing great Clarissa Shields making her PFL debut. I think Anderson Silva and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. are fighting in 2 weeks. And you still got boxing going on. You got Teofimo Lopez fighting this weekend. Yeah, the UFC, Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige is next week. UFC 263 was just yesterday. So there's a bunch of stuff going on this month. And it's if you love content, if you love seeing variety in your combat sports, it's been a great month to see it, because you get a whole different side of the spectrum in terms of, I don't want to say circus things, but unique matchups, to say the least. You got some competitive matchups with UFC and boxing, so it's a great thing to see. So without further ado, let's get into the first thing. So Bellator 260 went down this Friday at the Mohegan Sun Arena in, I believe, Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut. What can I say about this? So in the main event, we've seen Douglas Lima versus I usually have Elijah to help with names. Yusumav Amasov. Yusumav Alasov, yes. Yusumav Alasov defeats Douglas Lima by unanimous decision. Douglas Lima now loses the title. We were talking about actually fighting not Gilbert Burns. What's his name from middleweight? Giga Musasi. Fighting Giga Musasi again. And I don't know if that still happens after this loss, but Amasov looked really good. Controlled Douglas Lima. I think the kryptonite in this fight for Douglas Lima was just the grappling and the control that Amasov just had. I really couldn't get anything going on his feet, because Amasov just took him down and controlled him, and was able to smother him and reduce any of the knockout power or the leg kicks that Lima would throw, and really neutralize Lima. I thought it was a really it was hard to do. Yeah, I think a hard thing to do, but he did it. Somebody made a reference that this was the Douglas Lima has not been controlled like this since fighting Ben Askren way back in the day when before Douglas Lima became Douglas Lima, which is regarded as one of the best welterweights outside of the UFC. Um, so I thought that was very interesting. Uh, and for Amasov, man, I would think, do you do MVP? Maybe you do Michael Venom Page, which again, sidebar here, I thought Michael Venom Page on the Bellator broadcast was doing really well. I want to see more of him on that kind of spotlight there. Maybe even possibly guest commentating on some of these things. I thought he had a really good voice, and I thought he really held himself well against on with Josh Thompson. So I thought he did a good there, but it's interesting to see where they go with that. I think MVP is a candidate for a welterweight title shot. You could also do Douglas Lima versus Amasov again. But again, with this loss, Amasov pretty much controlled Lima for 5 rounds. I don't know if they give Lima the title shot right after that, but who knows? Who knows? How good Lima is, you can make exceptions, and you could find a way to give a rematch to Lima. So, but I think that was a very interesting matchup to see Amasov just control Lima like that. And you know what? For Bellator, now you have a potential rivalry. You have potential rematch that can do well. You have options now because I think they could have gone with versus Lima versus MVP again. Now maybe you do Lima versus MVP for the next one to get Amasov, or you give either Douglas Lima or MVP the title fight. Maybe MVP fights Amasov if MVP beats Amasov, which again that's going to be a huge test for MVP. He beats Amasov. Now that Lima versus MVP fight is even bigger because MVP may have beaten the guy that Lima couldn't beat and got controlled by, which you kind of will forget a little bit that Lima did knock out MVP. So there's an interesting matchup there with Bellator. Other fights on the card that I thought were interesting. Aaron Pico beating Aiden Lee, Anaconda choke in the 3rd round. MVP move to Jacksonville is really proving dividends to his progression and how he's progressively getting better and better. And he was already a good fighter, but I think they fine tuned it and now he's really being more what's the word, decisive in his movements. He's going for takedowns. He's not just standing with them, and you know he's using his grappling, but you also got to worry about his knockout power. You just got to worry about his striking. All about the shots to the body. Submission is on display here. Aaron Pico is really slowly becoming what they thought he was when they signed him. And he had a couple of troubles going in. He lost his Bellator debut. He had a couple of rough skids, but now he's finding his way. And with this Jackson Wink camp, he's really becoming a fighter that's well rounded. He's showing it on display. He could strike. He could grapple. He could submit you. And I wonder where he goes from here. Maybe you give him a step up in competition. Maybe he fights another ranked opponent. But I'm loving that they're slowly bringing Aaron Pico back up because they rushed him early on. They rushed him. Maybe they gave him too much too soon, and there was questions of why he wasn't in the Bellator Grand Prix. And now we're starting to see the fruits of slowly building Aaron Pico back up, letting him fight and letting him get the experience with this new camp. And he's slowly becoming a real threat in that division. So I'm interested to see where Aaron Pico comes from that. He's is a star in the making for Bellator. And I'm interested to see who they match it up with next. Are they going to give him a ranked opponent, or are they going to give him somebody maybe outside the rankings to then maybe in the future to a fight or two next, he'll fight a ranked opponent and work his way up contention for a title shot. So it was interesting to see Aaron Pico fight on this card. Jason Jackson defeats Paul Daly. Not really as much to say here. Jason Jackson pretty much just controlled Paul Daly. It's interesting at Paul Daly's, where he's at in his career. I think it's best to use Paul Daly in a way where you're giving Paul Daly not favorable matchups with matchups that will play the I'm gonna strike with you game. Will entertain. I'm gonna stand with Paul Daly and make this entertaining fight, because Jason Jackson, to his credit, he played a smart game plan. He took him down to the ground. He controlled Paul Daly. Got him against the cage, clinched up, and controlled him there. Really took the power and the threat of Daly away a little bit. But it's not going to be the most entertaining fight, and Paul Daly, suffers a loss here, and hopefully maybe they give Paul Daly a nice matchup. Let me see down the card. Although another good performance, Mark Liminger defeats Demarcus Jackson by TKO. That was a good grappling fight. Mark Liminger was able to get Demarcus Jackson to the ground, land a TKO, get the win. Good fight for him. I think he was on a losing streak. He had to get this one back. So good to see him win. I think that's pretty much it. It was a solid night of fights for Bellator. We got I think you got the announcement that Tim Johnson's going to fight. I forgot what his name is. Let me see here. 261 Boldanovsky on June 25th. So that'll be the next Bellator card, which should be interesting. So we'll see what happened with there. Fans are back on Bellator, so that was interesting to see. And we'll see how they regulate, if they're going to do full crowd soon. I think they're in Connecticut mostly, so I think they could go full crowds or maybe 50% at this point. So we'll see. But that was Bellator. My grade for it, I would give it a solid B minus B. I thought it was some good fights on there. Aaron Pico had a great performance. Jason Jackson played a smart fight. Amasov with a brilliant dominant performance over Douglas Lima. I thought it was a solid night of fights for a Bellator card. Again, Bellator will be back in 25th, so we'll see what happens there. All right, so I gave my grade for it. And now we're gonna move to PFL, which primarily I'm gonna talk Claressa Shields. I think that's the bigger story out of this whole thing. Oh no. Before we get to Claressa Shields, I want to say Brendan Loughnane defeated Tyler Diamond by majority decision. I thought that was a great fight. Brendan Loughnane shows that he probably should have got picked up by the UFC. That the UFC may have dropped the ball not getting him. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from there. He's on the hunt to win that $1 million and win this season. So we'll interested to see where he goes from there. But I think the UFC really dropped the ball not signing him. He really has a lot of potential to be a really great fighter. So, but I have my guest host here. I'm going to set him up. Let's see if we get him here. We're going to talk about Claressa Shields' debut. We're going to get in the UFC. So, 1 second here. You're muted. Nope.
Sorry, I had the mute on. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Hey, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How you doing, man?
I can't complain. Let me turn the brightness up. The kitchen looks really, really dark from here. I don't know why.
See a little bit.
I look like I'm a Sith Lord plotting, like literally plotting. Hold on. Let's see if I get a little light on my side.
That's all good.
I am doing fine though. Maybe that helps. Let's see. All right, that's as good as we're gonna get for the moment.
It looks all right.
I could go to my room if you want. It's a lot of light in there.
Actually, back up a little bit. So can you back up a little? No, it's extended. I thought for a second you probably get some lighting there, but it's just the way
we're gonna relocate. Give me one second to run.
All right, no problem. So I'll go. All right, so while we wait for Elijah to come on, for the viewer watching, please join us. Please join us. We're gonna be talking Clarissa Shields next, and we're gonna talk about UFC 263 in a second. We have not talked about UFC 263. We have not give NateDiaz his flowers. Just do. A lot of people clown me for saying that NateDiaz had a chance against Leon Edwards, but NateDiaz does NateDiaz thing. So we're gonna talk about that in a second. But we're gonna get into Clarissa Shields, talking about Clarissa Shields' PFL debut, and what that meant for boxing a little bit. I think that was an important moment. So we're going to give it 1 second. We're going to give Elijah back in here. Let's see if we could.
Can you see this beautiful face?
I can see it now.
Thank you, sir. Fix the dewy, you know what I'm saying? The silky. How you doing, man? I'm good. I just finished cleaning my room, rearranged, had a little breakfast. As you can see, that is my vinyl collection, as well as some goals I have for 2021 on the board. Yeah, nice. One of the things is successfully defend the lightweight belt against Tyriece. We'll know when that happens at 155. We'll see. But I'm good. How are you today, brother?
Try 170. Try 170.
I can't. 170. If I go to 170, I'm gonna look huge. I'm a skinny guy.
No, I gotta cut a lot of weight to get to 170. So we gotta even playing field, even a catch weight fight, as you will. A catch weight fight. Little catch weight.
Little Lamar Odom, Aaron Carter action going on. Is that what we're trying to go?
There you go. I'm gonna have my sagging drawers and while I light you up with jabs all day, every day. So there you go.
Yeah.
But speaking of boxing, since you brought it up, I was just about to get into Clarissa Shields. We talked about I talked a little bit about the other fights on the PFL. Bubba Jackson's also one on the card. But yeah, man. So you watched the Clarissa Shields fight, right? Yes,
I watched. I think maybe I caught the third round. Then I had to go back.
Okay. I think we talked about it on Saturday, the day of UFC. I said, man, I thought Clarissa Shields had a fantastic debut.
For someone transitioning from being so dominant in boxing to becoming an MMA fighter, I want to say this. Probably one of the more impressive debuts in general, right? But then you look at the caliber. She joined Jackson Wink. The gym to do it was Jackson Winklejohn, because that gym actually does have some very successful boxers who've also become UFC champions, such as Holly Holm, right? So having that tutelage, the guidance, the striking, the wrestling knowledge of Greg Jackson, of Winklejohn, I mean, you saw the hard work. I think she'd been training over 6 months for this fight?
Yeah, 6 months.
Over 6 months for this fight. So, I mean, there's definitely new things she obviously has to learn, but I think because she doesn't have like the 12, 14-ounce gloves on, her hands are quicker, in my opinion.
Yes.
Her hands, I mean, it's like the whole Rock Lee drops the weights and it's like, oh, I can finally do it, guy sensei. Yeah, go do it. It's like, wow. Yeah. Wow, she's got power, she's got precision, and she's got speed. And I mean, oof.
Yeah, one of the things I was interested in, and one thing that stuck out was her striking speed. Like she was able to, when she was able to stand when she could, she was able to land combos. Like it was 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Like she was not just throwing one shot. She was throwing combinations really fast and was catching her opponent with Brittany Elkins. A bunch of times on the feet, which you thought, okay, she may be in trouble on the feet. She even stunned her a little bit.
Yeah, Brittany Elkins. I mean, here's the thing, right? Brittany Elkin is a solid fighter too, solid grappler. I wonder if there's a relation to Darren Elkin there. Who knows? But she's an all-around good fighter. There's nothing away from her. And again, this was at, I believe, women's lightweight. So what? The other were probably 155.
Yep.
I mean, killers. She's a killer. Clarissa's a killer, but Clarissa, the way she finished the fight basically in round 3 I was really impressed by that. I was very, very impressed by that. Clarissa, we talked about this the day after, like you said on Saturday. Clarissa wasn't afraid to go to the ground.
No, not at all.
She didn't show that initial fear of like, all right, now what do I do, right? That shock moment where it's like, we all knew this was going to get here at some point in this fight. We just got to everyone knows, just take someone who's new to MMA down and see what happens. She was okay with me. She was comfortable. I don't know if she had the best, ground game, but she was comfortable. And that's what even more impressed us.
Yeah, I think one of the things that like you said, the grappling, and not just the grappling, but just the IQ.
Yeah.
The IQ, it just needs to just not be rushed to go to the ground with somebody. Like if you hurt them, to go to the ground, or if you're in a position where you're on top, to go with the ground with somebody that may have better jiu-jitsu or better grappling than you do. Because I think she had moments in the fight where she followed her to the ground instead of maybe getting back up, or where she had a position where she could escape. She just decides to stay there a little bit and entertain a little bit, which, to her credit, she showed composed. She was poised. She was not afraid to be on the ground and be on her back. She was at the bottom. Brittany Elkins was in top mount, looking for arm bars, looking for arm triangles. She stayed poised. She got out of them, and it's something she's got to work on. Something she has to learn, where positioning and try to sprawl out or try to butterfly out some of these positions. But also, like, the first moment of the fight, she wall walked. Yeah. She wall walked. She got taken down, and she went back to the cage and tried to wall walk herself back up. So there are things that she's learning, and it's only been 6 months, so she has more to improve on.
Yeah.
But man, she wasn't afraid, and she when she got a top position on Brittany Elkins, she let her have it. And you see in those small moments, she was able to just land on her, and you see the power from Clarissa Shields. I thought it was really impressive.
Yeah. And I think one of the interviews I saw with her, she was saying that for like the first time in her career, she had, not that she had doubt, but she's a little fearful. She said in boxing, she never really had that fear because she knew she was the best. Right. But in MMA, she's like, she had to come to face that reality that she could possibly lose. And so I thought that was interesting, psychologically wise, because you want to be motivated by the fact that you are the best, but you also want to be motivated by the fact you're going to lose. And I think one of the people who did this the most was George St. Pierre, right? He obsessed because he didn't want to lose, and then look where it got him. So I don't know.
I mean, you can go as far as Khabib. Khabib is also that. Yeah.
Khabib, because when now before you never really got interviews with Khabib, right? You never really heard anything about how he was feeling during fights or what was his kind of mindset. But Khabib is another person who really kind of just put the pedal on, didn't really want to lose, didn't want to give up anything because they were so anything could happen. So shouts out to Clarissa Shield, and my brother's a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. You're a huge fan.
Yeah,
I'm excited that she's in MMA, and I think I don't know if she'll go down to 135. I think that's a little too small for her.
I think 145 would probably be the sweet spot.
145 is probably the smallest she's going to be, and I would like to see that.
Yeah, I think the featherweights in female fighting is starting to grow more and more and more. Yeah. And with Amanda Nunes, bring the person to carry that 145 belt in the UFC. You got. Is Cyborg still the 145 champ? Yeah, she is.
Cyborg is.
Yeah. She just defeated I forgot her name. But nonetheless, you have two females that are legends carrying the 145 belt. So that 145 division is going to, and both sides are going to continue to grow and grow and grow. So who knows? Maybe 2 years, 3 years from now, we'll talk about a plethora of 145ers in the UFC and in Bellator. Of course, Shields may choose to go either one and become a division champ.
Yeah, either way is a perfect route for her. Getting a belt in a different sport, nothing but respect.
Yeah, so I thought it was a good performance. I thought I would go and say it was one of the most impressive debuts I've seen in a while, because she did come from losing down 2 rounds. She could have quit. She could have given up. She was in bad positions, and she just came back and beat her on the ground, which was interesting. So good performance for her. PFL, I think, continues to kill it. They continue to put on great cards. The production is doing well. So I'm going to see what next.
I mean, that's true. I'm really impressed with what PFL is able to do, and this is something we've always known about PFL. But I mean, the fights they're putting on these recent days are they're exciting. That's the other thing. PFL, they may not have as big notoriety as Bellator or UFC, but they are putting on great shows. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I think at one point people clowned the PFL for the tournament model and everything like that. But
I remember they were like, "How you gonna win? How you gonna win $1 million?"
yeah, but like
People kept saying that. How you gonna win $1 million? I was like, you don't. I was like, you don't know. Just let it see what happens.
they've done a great job in just even the tournament style and the format, because there was a fight on the card. I believe it was no, it was Chris Wade versus Arman
Chris
Aspinall.
Wade's a sleeper for featherweight. That man's a sleep. Do not mess with that dude. Chris Wade is a bad dude.
A great performance by Chris Wade, but like in the first round, because Arman was down in the rankings or the format of how they're going to decide who goes to the finals or whatever.
Yeah.
You've seen Arman come out strong. You've seen him coming out with a fast pace and trying to make up on points like that. Yep. The way the format of the tournament creates more action. Yep,
I agree.
So
the format is exciting, in my opinion. And you also have guys who aren't necessarily super popular, but you also have guys who are coming from UFC, from Bellator, to try to win this. You have guys like Clay Collard is a guy from former UFC guy. He's putting on a pretty good show. You also have Chris Wade, who had appearances in the UFC, didn't do too well, but comes into PFL, and I believe he's only lost 2 fights under their banner. 2 or 3 fights maybe at most, and he's had maybe about 8 or 9. So you have these people who go there and do have success. Sean O'Connell, light heavyweight from UFC, he ended up winning he ended up winning the $1 million contest after beating I forget his name, big jiu-jitsu guy, Vinny Magahesh. Him. Again, PFL is, in my opinion, their stock is growing, and I like watching their fights.
Yeah, I give it a solid. The card itself, I give it a solid B plus.
Yeah, I give it a B plus. Definitely a B card, but I'll give it a B plus because they're pushing it, and I like that.
Yeah, so good for PFL. Good to see another route for fighters to go and fight towards it, and possibly make $1 million. So can't wrong with that.
How can you be upset with making $1 million?
Yeah, but now people have been waiting for UFC 263. Now, Elijah, before we get into this, I do want to say this first, right?
Yeah.
Before we get into UFC 263, I want to say I thought the media for this fight. And I'm talking about the media as in people that are like, MMA junkie or bloody elbow or like, you know what I mean? What you said?
The promotion for the fight is what you're speaking of?
No, I'm talking about like some of the people that were covering the fight at the fight.
Okay.
Like the media people at the event, doing the press conferences, doing the post fights. Some of the media, not all, some of the media was god awful. And I hate to say this because I am a person that's in media, I am a journalist, stuff like that, but I do question where the UFC is are they looking at credentials? Are they looking at these media members coming in? Because some of the questions was just awful. Somebody went as far as to just not even ask a question at the post conference, we're just fanboying about Israel Adesanya, and we've seen it before with Conor McGregor. We've seen it before with some of the
people. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good. I didn't really. I saw that towards the post-fight press where a lot of people were asking me questions, but they really weren't questions about the fight or whatever, or just like investigational journalism or whatever you want to call it. They were kind of just like statements, and I was like, I knew what. First off, I just knew what kind of timing. You're right. It seemed a little funky in terms of what they were asking, but then again, I was like, you know what? It is what it is.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of fighters' time. If you have the fighters there and you can ask them legit questions about training camp, about the fight itself, about where they go from here, about even bring up like stuff they're doing outside of UFC. Bring up the charitable work or whatever. But don't just sit there and fanboy and talk about how much how much of a fan you are and thank them for being them. It's a waste of our time of people that's covering the sport. It's a waste of their time.
I don't think it's a waste of time. I do think
it's a waste.
Time should be dedicated to actual questions. So I think when you have people who don't fight like that all the time, like NateDiaz, that's an instance where it's like, okay, I can understand where people are like, hey, like, thank you for fighting. Like, you don't usually come back and fight, but when you have a guy who's kind of as, what do you call that, active as is, you also want to know whether or not you're asking the same questions over and over. So that would be one of my things if I was a journalist. Like, you don't want to consistently ask the same questions, because at the end of the day, you're going to keep like what's changed from the last pre-fight or post-fight interviews. There's only so many finite questions you can ask. But I understand the whole fangirling thing, and it's like all right, we get it. We love you too, but like, ask a real question. I also understand that too, because
Dude.
you also want to like get a good interview.
Dude, as somebody that me and you cover the sport, but somebody that does interviews and stuff like that,
I don't do interviews. So.
Yeah, you have to understand like how frustrating it is to see media members actually with fighters like a NateDiaz, like an Israel Adesanya, right in front of them. You can ask them any question you want, and your thing is to not ask them questions, but to fanboy out and talk about your appreciation for them and stuff like that, or not make it about you. And waste their time and waste the people that's watching's time. The fight went on. The pay-per-view went, I think, close to 1:30 in the morning, right? In our time.
I'm gonna say the pay-per-view went about to like 1:15, 1:30 around that time, because the post-fight was around like 1:45, 2 o'clock.
Right.
Or so actually, I think the actually main event was over closer to 1 o'clock, because the post-fight, I remember 1:30 being like the post-fight when they first started.
Yeah, so we're talking about a long card as is, and people covering the fight, and then you got media coming afterwards and basically asking things that don't pertain to the fight itself or any analysis or any questions that are investigative.
Understandable.
So that to me was the waste. I absolutely hated that shit. But it is coming out to cover the sport. So without that out the way, now we can talk about UFC 263. Elijah, you go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, UFC delivered, which may have been so far for me, may have been just a matchup, stylistic approach, main event, the best card of the year so far. Last night in Glendale, Arizona, UFC put on yet another phenomenal card in UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vettori 2 in the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona. We had for our main event, the last stylebender, Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. The second fight from which back in 2018 they originally met, and Israel walked out with a split decision. And the co-main event was the second bout of Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. Again, they originally fought in the past, and this is the second time. Brandon Moreno stepped up on short notice, not too short, but short enough, and Figueiredo eventually ended up having the fight go to a draw because of a deduction of a point. And for the first time in UFC history, we had a non-title five-round main event. That's what they were saying. But do you remember?
No, there's been others. That's
what I thought. They were hyping it up as if there was this first time five-round main event. But long story short, we had the return of NateDiaz at 170 versus Leon Rocky Edwards. Tyreece, I think we should best start with Leon versus Nate and work our way up.
Okay, so to piggyback on what you said, right? NateDiaz versus Conor McGregor was a main event that was not a title fight, that was 5 rounds.
Yeah. Everyone kept hyping. That's what everyone kept saying. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. Because I feel like the format before was that they had 5-round main events for title eliminators.
Right. Yeah, so that's not true. And maybe they meant co-main event, but
it's not true.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it.
Tyreece, that's what I did all last night. They kept saying that, so that's why I said it. But I like in the process of saying, I'm like, that's not. I feel like we've had 5-round main events.
There's another like stat from that they were touting yesterday that that Brandon Moreno I think he's the only Mexican born champion, UFC champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to think for a second, and I'm like, what does Cain Velasquez stand with that?
Well, I think when they say Mexican born, I don't know if I think they just from that statement alone, I believe he's actually born in Mexico. I think Cain Velasquez was born
in California.
Yeah. So I think Mexican, like, is he the first Mexican UFC Mexican champion? No. But is he the first Mexican born? That may be true. I'm not too sure.
It's a weird stat.
This almost seems like basketball. This is the first guy to get a double-double while carrying 2 things to the basket. It seems like stat padding, right? Like they're finding new ways to say things. But take away nothing from these gentlemen, because last night was an absolute spectacle of performances from the undercard to the prelims to the main card. And Tyriece, we originally talked about this with you, me, and a few other of our friends here for the show, where if NateDiaz lost, you would say something. You would admit.
I would admit. I was going to admit I'm wrong.
That's it. That's all.
I was going to say that, but I lied. And NateDiaz in a real fight, like he said, NateDiaz would have won that fight. No, it's not a. It is a organized fight. It's a 5 rounders. There is time limits. There is a winner and a loser here.
I don't mean to cut you off. You mean like in a real life fight?
Yes, in a street fight. Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Nate fight would have won that. And that's because yeah. But keep going.
But where it's an organized fight, it's an MMA fight, for God's sakes, in the UFC. NateDiaz lost to Leon Edwards, unanimous decision. I believe it was 49-48, I believe, right?
I'm pulling up the stats here as we speak, and
I want to say it's 49-48. You didn't have to tell me.
49-46, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, unanimous.
Interesting. I think NateDiaz lost 4 out of the 5 rounds.
There was about one round you could have been out,
Yeah, I thought Leon Edwards controlled the fight. Leg kicks were there. He was again being Leon Edwards, technical, slow and steady. Just
slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, you can't beat him off his pass. Even when NateDiaz was trying to taunt him or trying to make him upset to try to engage in striking, try to make it a dogfight. Leon Edwards just kept the same pace, and that's what Leon Edwards does. I thought it was a great performance for Leon Edwards. I wasn't amazed by Leon Edwards, to be honest with you.
No, this is what I know about from watching Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards shows up ready, shows up physically fit. This is what makes him such a unique guy. It's because you know what he's going to do. He's not going to do anything super spectacular. He's not hitting you with jumping knees. He's not hitting you with super kicks, right? He's not Fabricio Verduming you when he jumps, he kicks you in the neck.
A flying kick.
Yeah, he's not doing any of that. But the one thing you can count on is the technical ability, improved wrestling and grappling. And the last thing I want to say is that he keeps his cool, doesn't get worried, adapts to any situation, right? Those are the 3 things you're going to get from him. And the issue with it is that there's not too many people who can stop that. So that's what it is, right? It's not that he's putting on great performances because he's showing his levels above the people in the smaller things, right? The little technical basics. The basics that he's using is what he's using to beat you, which is the things that you're like, oh, like anyone can do that, sure, but he just does those things so very well. Like the end, like he would engage in the clinch with a type of seatbelt grip in front, right? Then go under the right armpit, get Diaz's back. From the back, he would, get that waist, cinch up a body lock, and then no takedowns, but trips. Right? Takedowns require energy. He's not a big guy. He likes to, point, jab, hit, move out the way, mobile. So he's never going to be a guy who's going to shoot a takedown unless he knows he can get it. But the trips that he were using were they're so technical that's what you're like having to face. So you're right. I agree with you saying like it's not that you're not. Maybe I can speak for myself. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm impressed. Like he had a show and out. But this is something I know that Leon Edwards is like, he's just that good. You know what I'm saying? That's it. It's not that he showed out. He did show out last night because he put on, he showed that even if he hasn't fought in a while, this is, he's got a great game plan. He executes the game plan. But it's the technical ability of Leon, the mind, the IQ is what you got. You got to give credit to that.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that's standard though. I think that's standard for Leon Edwards. I think Leon Edwards that's who Leon Edwards is. He's a technical mastermind in the octagon. I think he is somebody that is as well rounded as anybody could be. I think they tout him as being well rounded. He's known for being well rounded. Like that. There's like nothing in that was surprising. And I think one of the things that kind of hurt Leon Edwards in the performance was that he said he's going to go out there and just dismantle and destroy NateDiaz, and that NateDiaz was going to be there for 5 rounds. Lo and behold, NateDiaz was there for 5 rounds. And we'll talk about the ending in a second. But Leon Edwards needed a jaw-dropping, spectacular
blow the roof off
performance to get a title shot.
I agree.
And I think this was a standard Leon Edwards fight, which is kind of the problem because I think there were times where Leon Edwards could have put his foot on the gas a little bit, and he was unable to put his foot on the gas and really go out there and because he touched up NateDiaz a couple of times.
He had him hurt quite a few times off of like hooks. He had great elbows. He opened him up twice,
but he never followed up with it. Like he would hit him with a hook that would get NateDiaz stumbling back, and NateDiaz would point at him, but he would never engage or and that's near Leon Edwards' style is to pick you apart, win rounds, and decisively beat you. But there were times in this fight where you could have put your foot on the gas and maybe blitzed a little bit, or maybe go for the knockout, or maybe try to follow up on the shots you landed. But Leon Edwards is a smart fighter that just wants to win the fight, and that's his problem.
I don't disagree with that. I think he wants to win the fight, and if he can get the finish, he will. If not, he's fine with because it's a certain type of domination, right? It's not the dominating like Khabib where you're getting like remember the scene from the Avengers where Hulk grabs Loki and is just like bow bow, right?
Yeah,
but it's not that kind of domination. The domination is like you're gonna hit me, but I'm gonna hit you at least 2 to 3 times, and it may not stop you, but it's gonna wear you down. I think when you fight a guy like NateDiaz, the biggest issue you have to worry about is that he is as present in round 1 at 4:59 as he is at round 5 at 1 second, right? Like he is as present unless you gotta hurt him, and even in hurting him, you see hurting him is not enough. NateDiaz is not enough, right?
No.
That's just who NateDiaz is. Hurting him is not enough. He's a fighter. So for Leon, I think his biggest thing for this fight was just making sure he does the things that he does best and lasting till round 5. Because you saw Leon did start to slow down. Now, there were moments where I think he purposely slowed down just to, kind of get a feeling. And that's when he, may have got tagged with like a jab or here and there. But he was very evasive. But when it came to who was fresher at round 5 compared to round 1, Leon wasn't as fresh as Nate was.
Yeah, and I think you say he slowed down, but I also think that part of that is him just being lax in the fight. I think part of I think part of can we agree on this? I think part of it is again him not putting his foot on the gas, and when you have NateDiaz stumbling with a I think it was a left straight. It was a hook, but when you have NateDiaz hurt and he's wobbled back and he's pointing at you, that's the time when you go in and try to put it on. He's bleeding. He's cut on the side of his head. He has a cut on his eyebrow. You probably get a doctor stoppage if you push for it. But he's just slow, steady. Wants to win the fight. Wants to win decisively. But at the same time, if you want to wow people, if you want people to get people on your side, if you want to get more attention towards you, you need to go out there and finish these guys. Especially when you said leading to the fight, I'm going to finish this guy.
Yeah, I think any other person, him saying I'm gonna finish them, to me is like like he might batter them and hurt them and like get them in good positions. When someone says they're gonna finish NateDiaz, I'm like, all right, sure,
right. Like, but show me. But show me. Now you put that out in the ethos. Now you have to show me.
That's the double side of the coin. It's like when you're fighting a guy like Nate, you're like, yeah, okay, you're not fighting him. But I was like, damn, if he finishes him, that's pretty impressive. Like the guy who you had gotten into a fight with, Masvidal couldn't even finish him. He had to finish it through doctor stoppage. But that last round, we don't know what was happening because Masvidal started slowing down, right? So, I mean, long story short, I agree. I don't think this was the best showing of what Leon Edwards can do. However,
I think I honestly think it hurt him more than it helped him.
I will say this because I could see it helping and hurting him. I don't think he gets a title shot. And that's going to go ahead and segue us to our next conversation.
Yes.
I think this was a great, perfect showing out for him. You know, he doesn't get fights consistently, right? No one really wants to fight him. Again, it's like that's just tail of tape.
No, I'm not gonna give Leon Edwards that either because Leon Edwards had one.
I'm not done. Sorry. People don't want to fight him. He doesn't want to fight certain guys. UFC's not going to wait for him. That's the thing. UFC's not going to wait for him only because he's won so many fights in a row. He was out for almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
And UFC, the welterweight division was perfectly fine without him, right? Leon Edwards is not this is just reality. He's not the force he's not the next biggest thing that the welterweight division is waiting on.
No.
That's the issue. He's not the next biggest thing. Fight fans know how great he is. We want him to fight for the belt, but he's just not the next biggest thing. So unfortunately, this may end up hurting him. I don't see him fighting for the title shot immediately because you still have guys like Colby who can argue that, that first fight was very back and forth. You have other people who can make a case. If I'm Leon's team, I push for a title, but I know I'm not getting it. So the next fight to make is hard to say because I would say Wonder Boy, you should have took the Wonder Boy fight. I really believe he should have took the Wonder Boy fight. And I think such a great opportunity he would have had. Is what it is. Wonder Boy's supposed to fight what's his name? Gilbert Burns, right?
Yep.
So I wish he took that fight. If I'm Leon and people are saying you're not the guy, fight Colby. Fight Colby. Fight Masvidal. Those are two very perfect matchups if you really want to be that guy. A decisive win over Masvidal puts you in a good position. A decisive win over Colby puts you in a good position. What do you think in terms of for Leon? What do you think is best for him next?
Well, first I want to say sorry for interrupting you because honestly I thought you were going a different way. I thought you were going to give Leon Edwards a bailout there.
Now again, we have to be realistic. UFC is not waiting anymore. UFC is not waiting. The one person they could have waited on and was given multiple chances to was, I think, Tyron Woodley. I think that was the last of it. They were like, hey, we can fight top guys, keep fighting. And they're like, all right, now we're done. Other than that, they're not waiting on anyone. UFC wants you to prove why you're supposed to fight. And the only way to realistically do that, and I don't always agree with it because UFC also gives people title shots who may not always deserve it, is they say just fight. And that's it. Just fight.
Usman, but not even UFC. Usman is not waiting for anyone. Usman is not waiting. Usman is not waiting for Leon Edwards.
Nope.
So in regards to Leon Edwards' performance, I thought it was a solid performance for him. It's usual, but it's not a great performance from him at all. I thought he really hurt himself more than he helped himself in this fight.
Yeah.
I think for Leon Edwards, he's not getting a title shot. I think Colby Covington is solidified himself as the next number one contender. Maybe you do Leon Edwards versus the winner of Gilbert Burns versus Wonder Boy. I think that'd be the most logical next step. Or honestly, if you're Leon Edwards, you will push for the Masvidal fight or the title fight. I say if you're Leon Edwards, you push for the rematch against NateDiaz. I think a NateDiaz versus Leon Edwards too, that could work.
Sell it to me, Tyriece, because I really don't think so. But go ahead.
I'll tell it to you. So, and it's perfect segue. So, NateDiaz said in his post-fight conference, and one of the good questions they were asked was that he wasn't motivated for this one. He was motivated for the one because they were going to fight in Houston.
Yeah.
But NateDiaz got cut, and he had to step out of the fight. He had to wait another month for this fight. So he said, going into this fight, I didn't really feel it. I was unmotivated. I was ready to go in Houston, and then had to wait a whole another month to fight. I was just like, I just didn't care. And that kind of showed in this fight a little bit when you see NateDiaz with the theatrics. When you kind of like you analyze his press conference, his pre-fight press conference. with how lax he was and how he was just there and whatever. It seemed like he was going through the motions. I think you could sell it in a way where, man, in the last couple of minutes of that fight, off a long layup for NateDiaz, he found himself in a fight, and we've seen Leon Edwards in a position we've not seen Leon Edwards in his entire career in the UFC. We actually seen him hurt, stunned, and was moments away from being finished. It was a classic Stockton slap to
which is interesting. It was was it? He actually kind of orthodox in that position, right? Because it was a left hand that cracked him.
Yeah, he Stockton slapped him and then hit him with a punch down the middle and had him stumbled and wobbled. We've never seen in Leon Edwards' entire UFC run, we have never seen him in that much trouble than when he was then from getting knocked out. He's never been knocked out either.
I don't think he's ever been stunned like that before, in my opinion.
Exactly. We've never seen Leon Edwards like that. Now, one of the things I was talking about with Leon Edwards was that if NateDiaz was coming in as a NateDiaz that I would think, motivated, hungry, he's training with Nick. They're trying to get the Nick Diaz brothers back together and try to get them back in the UFC. He seems fit. He seems healthy. Like, he seems really, really motivated. He seems like we didn't really get that with this one, right? So if we're going to see a NateDiaz versus Leon Edwards 2, we know NateDiaz has the confidence coming in that, yeah, I can hurt you. I can sting you. That reel of me Stockton slapping you, give me the classic Stockton slap and then hitting you, and you being stumbled and give me one of the craziest moments of 2020 so far, that will live forever. I think you could sell that fight as Leon Edwards versus NateDiaz 2. NateDiaz healthy. He's now had a fight under his belt. He's now warmed up. He's now ready to go. And Leon Edwards needs to finally put the stamp on his performance, man.
No,
again, he can't just be cruising through these fights. You say no, but he's not going to get any fans or any people behind him if he's not going to put on a great performance.
By your definition of what great performance is, a finish. We would like the finish, but him being the dominant, basically, what do you call it, leading the fight, is a dominant performance. So if he's doing that to multiple guys,
no. I said a great performance. Great performance.
Listen. I'm not even going to argue that part. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, UFC's not rebooking this fight because there's nothing. And aside from that one moment, this is what they're going to say. You're going to have to show up to the fight the day of. And if you don't fight, if there was a little bit more struggle, like if NateDiaz had won 2 rounds and Leon had won 2 rounds, and in the 5th round it was like, wow, like this were back and forth and he gave it to Leon, sure. But that didn't happen with Nate.
I disagree.
Nate didn't care.
I disagree.
You just admitted it. Nate wasn't as motivated. Nate wasn't as this. And if that's the case, why rebook this fight, right? If you want to fight, you will show up to fight. If you want to do certain things in a fight, you do those things that no one's controlling you to do those things, right?
No, you're right.
I'm just telling you that is how it is. There's literally no reason to rebook this fight because you already know how it's going to end. We had one moment out of 25 minutes showing what NateDiaz could do. And arguably, I didn't see that coming. I was even more impressed, right? But Leon survived it. He held on.
Barely,
but he did. At the end of the day, he did. Like, you're like, this was like, oh, he was saved by the round. But there's only 5 minutes in a round. You have to do what you have to do in those 5 minutes. I'm not saying he should have, NateDiaz did what he had to do. Sure, he did certain things that were right. He did a lot of things that were wrong. But at the end of the day, that was one little blip in 24. That was actually only 15 seconds, to be honest with you. That whole little exchange. Think about it. In the that whole like stunning him, literally maybe like 20 seconds. Maybe like 20 seconds left.
It was a minute.
That was not a minute.
A minute.
Tell you what, I'm gonna go back and watch it when this podcast is done, and then we'll talk about it after. But moral of the story, to wrap that part up, that fight's not getting booked. And I'm gonna tell you this.
I want to correct you on one thing. NateDiaz. So Leon Edwards did have a dominant performance, right? And I never said he had a great performance. I never in this whole time I never said he had a good performance. I said it was not a good performance from Leon Edwards actually. Also, Leon Edwards getting touched up. That's one of the things of the fight was to me was that Leon Edwards, yes, he was cracking Nate Diaz. And again, his problem, consistently the problem is not following up on the shots and not trying to get the man out of there. Nate Diaz was touching him up in the third, fourth, and then we've seen what happened in the fifth round.
I would say the third round. The third round is what we talked about. How he kind of like took a step back and was like kind of just waiting and just he let go of the gas a little. Not let go of gas. He pumped the brakes. That was the fight, in my opinion. That was the third or fourth round. I thought Leon started to slow down, in my opinion. But again,
maybe it's slowing down, or maybe again, like it's him just cruising. And again, if you're and this is my thing with this, right? If you're Leon Edwards, why would you not do Nate Diaz too? Like that's
no point.
How Elijah? How?
Sir, he beat him. He beat him decisively. There was nothing that Nate Diaz had for him. What did he have for him?
Hold on. He beat him, but he lost that fight. I'll tell you why. Because in the grand scheme of things, Leon Edwards lost more fans than he gained in that fight. Nate Diaz is going to be talked about for the remainder of this news cycle about how he almost stopped Leon Edwards in that fight. All Leon Edwards did or was trying to do with cruise control and trying to have a dominant performance was all halted by Nate Diaz's performance. Nate Diaz stole Leon Edwards' shine. Leon Edwards has been backed up. Hold on. Leon Edwards has been talking about how he's going to go in there and finish Nate Diaz. He's going to put a stamp on the performance. He's going to go and get a title shot next. Now we're coming out of this fight saying Nate Diaz almost rocked Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards was in trouble, was seconds away from being finished. He was saved by the bell. He won the fight by unanimous decision, but he did not gain any followers. He's actually maybe lost followers, and Nate Diaz became a bigger star out of this. So if you're Leon Edwards, why, if you're not getting a title shot, why not go after Nate Diaz where you can have a rematch, be a main event on a pay-per-view possibly, and maybe get your first pay-per-view money?
UFC's not rebooking that fight.
Oh my God, man! How do you not see that? How do you not see that?
It's a possibility, sure, but I don't think UFC's gonna do it. I'm willing to put money up on that one. UFC's not rebooking that fight.
I'm saying if you're Leon Edwards, why would you not go for that?
If you're Leon Edwards, you go for the cream of the crop now. You ask to fight. I would ask to fight Masvidal, Colby, or the winner of Steven and Burns. But I'm not going to agree with you. I'm not going to see your point. You're not going to give up a point. I'm fine with that. Where do you think Nate Diaz goes from here?
For Nate Diaz, one, I want to give his flowers. I want to say that people discredited Nate Diaz for this fight. I even said, you know what, it's probably likelihood Leon Edwards defeats Nate Diaz, which happens, right? But Nate Diaz, even unmotivated, had more charisma and more of a big fight feel to him than anybody on this card. And this card reminded me of how big of a star Nate Diaz is. And he became an even bigger star last night. I think Nate Diaz has been doing this for a long time. He finally got his just due with the Conor fight. And now, like we've seen time and time again since after that, Nate Diaz is such a big star. Justin Bieber was there. The celebrities was out there to see Nate Diaz fight. Drake tweeted out to him and talked about Nate Diaz. So, like, Nate Diaz is that guy, and he deserves all the love and respect. Once Nate Diaz leave the sport, we're never gonna see that ever again in the UFC. So appreciate that. But
we don't get two brothers like this ever again.
We don't get these two personalities like this ever again.
Nope.
Let alone brothers. We don't get this energy ever again.
And we've talked about this early on, right? Bring the Diaz brothers back because they have star power. It's no longer about whether they win or lose. They show up. Now, last night it seemed like Nate didn't show up all the way, but the thing about fighting these guys is that they're ready. They're always ready to fight, and at any moment of the fight, anything can happen. That's what this proves about MMA, right? Is that, like, they always say, like, oh, like, just because a guy has this, these guys or girls have like the knockout and all these other stuff, they can be 21-0. Or like they could be running around winning, right? Nate Diaz showed up on short notice, I think 2 weeks to fight Conor McGregor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
beat Conor McGregor, submitted him. First ever loss in UFC. Submitted the top guy who not only had his own, who went on to have his own documentary, whatnot, won the belt from Aldo, beat Eddie, like he beat that guy, right? Then you have, it's just the Diaz brothers, again, you got to give them credit. You just got to give them their credit. And you're right. Once they're done, we will never see that kind of energy again.
No, never. And for NateDiaz, what he goes from next, again, the Leon Edwards fight makes so much sense to me, especially if you're NateDiaz, you see what you did in that 5th round, and you look at, okay, there's things that if done better, I could probably do better in the second fight, and I could probably utilize the clinch a little bit more. I know the ground game for me, I have the advantage there because Leon Edwards not going to want to engage too much because of what I can set up on the ground. I did pick it up and pick him up and land on him a couple of times in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, especially the 5th round. There are things there where I can look at and say, okay, there are victories, and I could see different things of how I could get to it, especially if Leon Edwards is going to fight like how he did and just throw just enough to try to win, or he's gonna land on you but not really follow up with what he lands. So I think NateDiaz, that fight's there. You have the Jorge Masvidal fight. You can do that fight. There's a bunch of, you got the Conor or Dustin Poirier loser can fight that, or the winner. Who knows? There's so many fights for NateDiaz. I think this also brings back Nick Diaz as well. I think the bigger story out of this is that Dana White seems to appreciate the Diaz brothers. He talked about Nick Diaz coming back. First time we've seen him actually talk positive about Nick Diaz in a while.
Yeah,
that was significant.
I saw that. I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, like I didn't think that comeback would happen." He's like, "Yeah, he might fight this." I was like, "Wait, what?"
That was very significant. That was very significant for him to drop the whole Nick Diaz is not motivated. Nick Diaz want to fight, so yeah, he may actually fight this year. So maybe you do a pay-per-view with Nick and Nate back to back, or Nick and Nate 1 month apart from each other and hell out pay-per-views, because I think, again, their star powers. You don't need a title fight to necessarily have them on the card, which also helps the UFC balance out the title fights. So I
also fill the gaps of those pay-per-views that may be a little lackluster. Good matchup for fans. Sorry, good matchup for consistent followers of UFC, but for fans, it's like they're like, I don't really want to watch that. I want to buy that. Throw a Diaz there.
Like the Kamaru Usman and Gil Burns fight we had early in the year, where we maybe a Nick Diaz or a Nate Diaz on that card, 5-round fight, kind of, you know what I'm saying? So that's what you gotta do. I love to see what the Diaz brothers getting their just due, and that Dana White is warming up to the Diaz brothers now. It seems like so. Give Nick Diaz all his flowers. I thought he had a great ending. I wish he had a better performance, but he became a bigger star after tonight in the legend.
Answer me this.
Yeah.
Does he not look better now at 170?
Yes.
He's felt like, I think he's consistently, I mean, obviously he's not training, like he's not ballooning up to like maybe 200 or whatever, but it seems to me like he's bumped up to the 170 body now.
Mm-hmm.
Like before, he's a little skinny, still put on muscle. He's just big, a little bloated, but he looks 170. He looks 170 to me, solid.
He's also older too, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like him, yeah.
Yeah. I thought he looked in great condition as usual.
Yeah, I honestly thought that even in the loss, I thought from taking the time off to fight Leon Edwards, who as skilled as he is, I'm not taking anything from Leon Edwards. He's a well-rounded, a threat in the welterweight division. He just needs that little bit of oomph. Like honestly, Kamaru Usman had this early on before the Tyron Woodley fight, or during the Tyron Woodley fight, where like he does just enough, but he's not really wowing you. Really, now he's wowing you.
He's got to finish guys.
Leon Edwards needs to finish guys. So I think he hasn't even finished the guy in the UFC yet.
Let me double check, but go ahead, and you from that fight.
He beat Peter Sabata by ground and pound.
Yeah,
but that's
no. He knocked somebody else out. Leon knocked someone out. He beat Peter Sabata, Seth Baczynski, but that was early. That was like second.
That was 2015.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
It's people MMA memory, But yeah, I thought a good performance from NateDiaz. Overall, just his star power grows. And for Leon Edwards, man, I love Leon Edwards. I just want him to kind of pick up the pace and really set himself apart from the
Yeah. We know he's not good enough to beat you. Now we want you to get to a point where there's no doubt in our mind that whatever around.
Yes, because I know he's capable of that. I know he is.
He's a monster. But this leads us to our first title fight: Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo. And for those who didn't watch last night, Brandon Moreno showed up, showed out, put on a spectacle, and defeated Deiveson Figueiredo by rear naked choke.
Yeah. There's not really much to say about this fight.
No.
But
yes and no. But I'll let you go first because you're the mind. You're the mind behind the show. So you do your thing.
No, so it's our thing. It's our thing. But for this fight, for me, one of the things that stuck out to me was I had Deiveson Figueiredo win this fight.
Yeah.
Before going into this, I thought just what we seen in the first fight, I thought Deiveson Figueiredo. There are more things Deiveson Figueiredo can do to win than what Moreno did. I thought Moreno had his best showing in that first fight. Lo and behold, he outdid himself in this fight. I thought Moreno looked really the energy was there from the crowd was behind him, the energy was there from him. He seemed like he was ready to go from the press conference. Deiveson Figueiredo, for me, I strongly believe that the weight cut has finally come to Deiveson Figueiredo, and I think that should in this fight. I think he looked lackluster. I thought he looked out of it. I thought the energy was just not there for him. Even in the press conference, you kind of go back and look back at that, and you can kind of think, okay, maybe he's just being serious, but at the same time, maybe he's just like not there mentally or just not there energy wise, because he wasn't even enthusiastic during the press conference. And you see the weight cut and how much he lost. It took literally 30 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever before the weight cut limit was off that he weighed in.
Yeah.
So it was a tough weight cut. I thought the energy wasn't there, and Moreno just picked him apart.
I just want to start by saying this. I think the weight cut has always been tough because Figueiredo, when you look at his body type, he is so lean that you have to wonder whether or not he's literally lost most of his water weight, right? Like that's scary to lose all that amount of water weight. He always shows up with sunglasses, but to the weigh-ins, but he looked like cheeks in, depressed a little bit.
Yeah.
He always shows up like this. I think at the end of the day, when it came to what he presented versus what Moreno presented, Moreno is just the all-around better fighter. And the reason why I want to take it into striking-wise, his boxing has gotten significantly better since he's been cut from the UFC. Remember when he fought his little brother? He fought his little brother. Sergio Pettis lost that fight. Did good back and forth, but for the most part, lost the fight from being outpointed. Then he lost to, I believe, Alejandro Pantoja, got cut from UFC. I bring this story up every time we mention Brandon Moreno. Comes back to UFC, wins a handful of fights. Maybe I think he gets a draw to like Askarov, I think. Gets a draw again to Figueiredo, but he picked up the Figueiredo fight in a small amount of time. I don't think it was short notice, but I think he had only a month to train. Right? They made that fight within like a month or so. So I don't think he had enough time. He didn't look himself. He didn't look his natural fit. So after the first fight, my takeaway was, well, Brandon Moreno got rocked, but how many times has he been rocked before? Right? Aside from the strength, Deiveson Figueiredo wasn't going to wrestle him. He had good moments where he had takedowns, but Brandon Moreno was able to get right back up. Right? So for me, going into this fight, we talked about this. I was thinking Moreno, the biggest problem is the power.
Yeah.
And if he could withstand the power and put pressure on Figueiredo, which nobody really does. Nobody really puts pressure on Figueiredo because he has the power and they're scared. And it's rightfully so. He puts people out. If you put pressure on Figueiredo, he can crack. And I think that's what Brandon Moreno did. Brandon Moreno, he went first.
Okay.
And when he went first in the later rounds against Deiveson Figueiredo, round 4 and round 5 especially, when he went first, he stepped up, doubled up the jab, went to the body a little bit, threatened a little bit of takedowns, right? He was able to put a show and put the work on Figueiredo. Figueiredo was kind of, he was a little hesitant, and he brought that to this next fight. He brought everything he learned from that first fight to this second fight. Put the pace on him in round 1, started the bell, then finishes him. in what, round 2?
Round 3.
3. Sorry, yeah, finishes him in round 3. Brandon Moreno gets it. He gets his dues, man. He has one of the best comeback stories in UFC right now.
Elijah, let me ask you this. So you're saying to me, because I'm make sure I'm hearing this correctly. You're saying that you believe that Brandon Moreno is your reason for Brandon Moreno winning the fight was that you thought that he just is an overall better fighter.
I think he overall puts it together better than Davis and Figueiredo. Yeah.
Okay. For me, I thought going into this fight, I thought the wrestling was going to cancel each other out. The grappling was going to cancel each other out. I didn't think because of how close they are grappling was, I didn't think it was going to be much time spent on the ground. Looking at their stats, you can see just how much time between control stuff like that. It was going to cancel each other out. I thought the strike going into this fight from the first fight. I thought Davis and Figueiredo was going to be the more powerful puncher, and
you were right though. In this fight, he was, because when he clipped him, he did get hit.
But also, I thought Davis Figueiredo's striking is a lot more
technical.
Technical, yes, tighter, technical. Like I thought Moreno, he uses a lot of volume. He'll jab, he'll go to the body, stuff like that. But I think overall, just like in terms of keeping tight, going to the bodies, going to the head, I thought Davis Figueiredo had that, and I think he is the overall better fighter. I honestly do believe the weight cut just took all the energy out of Figueiredo. Again, I just
I agree. I don't 100% agree. Sorry, but I agree. The weight cut's hard for him. I agree. Yeah. You physically see it every single time he makes 125.
Yeah, I just the energy was off too. Like the energy of Figueiredo, like what I was getting from the overall this fight week, was off to me. Like even Aljamain Sterling chimed in yesterday and was like, "Is it me or is it Figueiredo off today?"
He pushed Brandon Moreno, which we've never seen him do. I've never seen him get that rowdy.
Yeah, but again, maybe that is part of the weight cut and dealing with you know what I mean. So that was unusual.
I think Brandon Moreno doesn't get enough credit. Not saying it's you, but I think in general he doesn't get enough credit.
Okay,
he's fought some very tough competition early in his career. And that's what kind of I don't want to say stopped him, but fighting tough competition we know is early is hard. Mm-hmm. It's very hard for a young fighter to do. Remember, Brandon Moreno is also only 29.
Yeah.
Sorry, 27. He's 27. He's so young, right? Mm. Brandon Moreno is one of those guys to me that he keeps his hands almost like this. He doesn't keep them up. He keeps them like this. Tight guard, right? Tight guard, willing to go like this, may shoot, doubles up the jab. I think he's finally putting it together better than the people he's fighting. And that's why I think overall, I would say Brandon Moreno it's not by a big margin, but I do think he puts it better together than Davis and Figueiredo. I wouldn't say I'm just going back. I don't think I said he's better than him. I just say I think he puts it together better.
Yeah, put it better. Yeah.
That's what I can say.
That's fair.
I think moving forward, I'll start with Davis and Figueiredo. I don't think there's too many people in the division who could beat him. Let's just go ahead and say that.
I don't think he stays at 125. I think he goes to 135.
I think so too. I think he jumps up. He's not too small for 135, to be honest with you. He's got the hands. He'll be still athletic. He has one of the best guillotines in the game right now. I think he's still a dominant position. He can still make 125 and can still beat a lot of guys, but why risk it? I think we may see something similar to Jessica Andrade, where he bumps up, has great success, and then fights for a belt within the next year or two. Who knows?
He has the name value to get himself a ranked opponent and get himself halfway there to a title fight.
He can land 7 immediately.
For me, Figueiredo just looked the weight cut, and I think did he miss weight before? He missed weight for the Benavidez fight. First one.
Davis and Figueiredo has missed weight almost 3 times now.
Yeah,
it's nothing new.
Yeah, so I just looked at him and was like, man, maybe it's just time to go to 125. Your brother's in 125 division anyway, so maybe your brother can be 125. He go 135. I should have got his name here. I know his brother is in the flyweight division as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Keep going.
But yeah, I would love to see him at the 135. Maybe you do him versus Cody Garbrandt. They'll put the fight at 125. Maybe you do that at 135.
Oh, I like that fight. Fight.
Cody Garbrandt is somebody that is coming off a loss to Rob Font. For Davidson Figueiredo, it'd be a good test to see at 135.
Francisco Figueiredo.
Yeah. So, and then Cody Garbrandt's not a big 130. He can cut to 125 too. He's not a big 135. He's not a big 135er. So that fight, stylistically, matchup wise, body wise, I think that fight's a perfect fight for Figueiredo to get to the bantamweight title. So I like that fight for Brendan Moreno. Is Askarov? How's he doing?
They ended up having a draw, and so run that back as his first title defense.
Askarov is he on a win streak? He's on a 14-fight win streak?
Yeah, he's dominant. He's looking great.
So he's due up for one. It's fair to say he's due up for a title fight against Brendan Moreno, who had a split decision against.
Remember when he was having all that trouble in the UFC? Like didn't he get released and then came back?
Yeah. I think he had a medical issue or something like that.
Yeah. Bottom line is, Askarov has beaten Benavidez and Tim Elliott.
Yeah.
Give him a title. Get the division moving. I like that fight for Brandon Moreno. The first fight is to reclaim the loss you had, or the draw, to say. And so that fight again. This fight was, I think, in my opinion, this was fight of the night for me.
Okay.
Performance of the night. Performance of the night for me was this. But
I do want to say this. Sorry to cut you off. I should have said this earlier. I'm not discrediting Brandon Moreno's win, but I do factor how much that weight cut is. I think the first fight was so amazing that I think we could have gotten that in the second fight, but I think the weight cut was just too much. Maybe Brandon Moreno would have won that fight anyway, but I just think the weight cut had done better. I think we could have gotten another classic. But Moreno beats Figueiredo.
Rear naked choke.
I think this is a star-making performance for Moreno too. I think we haven't talked about that. I think he really is coming to his own, and I think he really is maybe going to be a star for the flyweight division. The crowd was behind him. He's a Spanish commentator as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? So he has a following, and he's going to continue doing that as well. I will hope so. So his name and his voice is going to keep being showcased. Yeah. And I think he's a perfect person to lead that flyweight division and to bring more prominent. We talked about flyweight division almost being gone. Now we're talking about a rejuvenation and how Brandon Moreno lead the charge.
Remember that show we talked about, flyweight? You were like, get rid of him. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And I was like, I could kind of see them get rid of it because there's nothing. Like, Demetrius Johnson ran through it's one thing if your champ wrestles everybody twice. Yeah. The first time is fine, but twice?
Right. And we're gonna good like amazing fights at flyweight.
We're getting the top 5 is killers.
Yeah.
We're gonna go now. Davidson Figueiredo is going to be 1. Askarov is probably going to be number 1, or Figueiredo is going to be 2, right? Then you have Alejandro Pantoja, right? And then you also have guys like Alex Perret, like Kai Kara-France, Roy Ball.
Yeah,
everyone's talking about what Roy Ball was able to do these days. Roy Ball is that boy fight. He scrapped.
You can also run that back again. That fight with Brandon Moreno ended because of an arm injury that was something that Revolve had problems with, but it really wasn't as big of a problem as we thought it was. So that fight could be run back. Just Benavidez is still there. Alex Perez is still there. You have fighters coming up like Matt Schnell. You have Tim Elliott. Like there's a bunch of fighters.
Tim Elliott's still there. A lot of people forget about him.
Yeah, so you have a bunch of
Bontarin.
So you have a bunch of fights.
Possible champion. I'm calling it now.
You have a bunch of fights you could do. So Hold on. I told
you. Remember? Do you remember the Martin episode where he was like this? Tyreece, I want to see the denim jacket, bro, because you said you would. No, you didn't say that. But listen, Toby Green, you are right. You know MMA. Leon was smart. Like Tyreece is not giving Leon his credit. He's not. Tyreece don't like Leon. Tyreece hate him. He hate him. Now I'm playing. Tyreece gave him credit. But
first of all, Toby, glad to have you here, man. I appreciate you. Where the hell were you? We were talking about Leon Edwards for NateDiaz for the last hour or so.
He had to. Toby Green had to digest the stupid shit you said that they should run it back. He had to take it in, go outside, breathe, get it together, come back in, and let you know that Leon was smoking him.
You know what? I wonder if Toby watches on VOD, if he goes back and listens to my reasoning about Leon Edwards versus NateDiaz 2. I think he may appreciate that. I think Toby Green may be on my side. I think he may enjoy a NateDiaz versus Leon Edwards too, because again, Nate almost had him. Toby, as much you want to say that NateDiaz
I had to touch grass to clear my mind.
Toby, NateDiaz hurt him. You can't deny that.
It's a fight. Someone got to hurt the fight. He's got to get hits. What do you want? I think
good
Toby
he
makes a really good point. I'm just not going to agree with it because UFC's not going to see it. But moving forward to our main event, Tyreece, we had Israel Adesanya defend his middleweight belt for what I believe is the third or fourth time now.
Let's see. He beat Whitaker. Third, right? Because it was
Costa,
Paulo, and then
him.
Yeah.
So Israel is now at 3 title defenses for middleweight.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't say he completely dismantled Martin Vettori, but he had a very dominant win for someone who was saying that, he can beat him. I pretty much saw this fight going that way. I said Izzy was going to win. I know you said Vettori has all the tools to get it done. To this fight, I feel like there's also we could ramble about it, but there's not much to say because it's really what it really came down to was what Vettori didn't do. Right? It did everything he did everything we knew he was going to do. The few surprises though was that Israel's ground game got a lot better. And everyone's like, we don't know from the Yan fight, but yeah, it was crazy. Toby Green says, I said after round 1, Vettori's leg was going to go before his cardio. He had no idea to answer the leg kick, and he would see Izzy trying to set up the head kick. Yeah, agreed. Izzy hits that. He was hitting those calf kicks, thigh kicks. Got caught with a double leg double leg in the first round. But after that, he was really just body. It went leg, head, leg, head, leg, head. So honestly, I'm not surprised. This is what Izzy does.
I'm surprised you didn't go in NateDiaz on the surprise.
Nah,
it's not earned. It's not earned.
Leon beat him. I can't do that today. Leon beat him.
In a street fight, but nonetheless, I
might go Nate.
Yeah, I might street fight. Listen, he stocked and slapped him. And hit him with who does that other than Nate? But so Israel Adesanya. I thought this fight again. Israel Adesanya was a smart money bet. I thought Vettori had the tools to make a upset right here. The leg kicks is something that Israel Adesanya has introduced. What was it? Maybe the Yoel Romero fight was what I think it became more prominent with those leg kicks to start the fight off. In the Paulo Costa fight, we've really seen it in this fight for sure. But for me, though, I thought Vettori had the tools and he had moments in the fight where, we could probably make something work here. I think I texted you during the fight. Yeah, I was like Vettori doesn't have that second or third gear. Like once he has, what we see Vettori's going to go with the jab. I just choking on himself. We see Vettori goes with double jab, and we see him going for the double leg. Yeah. And Rafael Cordero, who I think is a great coach, a brilliant coach,
great head coach.
But there was no other instructions to, hey, let's if this is not here, let's work here. If this is not here, let's just change this. If we go for a double, switch to the single. Switch to the single, go for a grapevine. Like there was no like breakdown or try to like get to position. It was just, hey, we're gonna go for the double jab and work your jab and try to get a double leg. There was no like
I wonder
detail to it.
When I see things like that, I wonder if it's one of those things like, oh, we've already practiced this. You know what he's doing. I may not need to tell you the little bits to how to adjust, right? Because you should be making those adjustments. Or this is one of the things where like he realized what could he tell him to do because he was frustrated as well, and there was nothing. Truly told, there's nothing that Vettori could do, right? I think one of the biggest things was that Izzy likes to fade. I'm going to read Toby Green's comment. When Vettori had Izzy against Fence, which he could have either got the takedown, which found out Izzy's defense is top tier, laying big hooks like when he had jabbed the man and had no drive to kill. Yeah, I agree. I think the clinch was great. He has missed. Yeah, it's okay, Toby. Don't worry about that.
It's okay.
Here's the thing. I agree. He had him against the cage. The takedown doesn't work. Now start working to the body, right? Let's get a body lock.
Thank you, Elijah.
Let's get a tie plum. Izzy likes to go instinctively to his right, like a matador, right? He comes out like this. Let's block the right. He goes right, left, doesn't matter. He loves to go to the right. Let's block the right, right? Get that going. Get the body lock. Kind of working foot stomps, knees to the thigh, whatever you can possibly do to make it as dirty as possible because he doesn't want that. He wants the space to be as creative as possible with his striking. You need to kind of slow that down. Now, to his credit, he got great takedowns in the moments that he got them.
The low kick. And,
everything else was too telegraphed.
Yes.
Way too telegraphed. He didn't cut angles. He pushed forward. He didn't do what he did in the first fight, which was rough for me to see because in the first fight, what actually worked is when he would throw combinations back to back. And even if he didn't throw the cleanest combinations, he would throw like a 1-2, he starts southpaw. So he would throw this jab like this, hook, throw straight. He did none of that. He threw one shot. Touch him. And when you play that pity patter game with touch, Izzy will 99.9% come out on top. That 1% is that you may hit him. But then how often does that happen?
Yeah.
Izzy's head movement was phenomenal last night.
It was. It was phenomenal. It was. I will say this. I thought this. I don't know if I said it here yet, but I'll say it definitively here. I think Rafael Cordeiro is a great coach. I think he's a brilliant coach. This was not his best showing at all. I thought for your fighter, you're trying to help him. I think he could have done a better job. Of, hey, yes, you're telling him he's down 3 rounds, 2 rounds, 4 rounds, whatever. But now give him instructions as to how to improve what he's doing. All you're telling him is to keep doing what he's been doing is going for the jab, trying to go get a takedown. You're not really instructing him. You're not really instructing him. Okay, this is not working. Okay, let's switch to this. You're not saying, hey, while he's against the cage, go to the body. You're not like stop headhunting. Like he's just telling him the same thing he's been telling him the whole entire fight, and it's not leading to a change. So you can't go to your fighters like I don't know what you're doing. You're not pushing forward. He's doing everything you're telling him to do.
I wouldn't say he's doing everything he told him to do. But when you really look at it, it seemed as though the only way they thought they could win this fight is to push forward on Izzy or a takedown. The push forward was a 50-50, and the takedown was their best bet. Right? That was it. Vettori looked physically strong. He looked like if it was anybody else, he would have had those takedowns. Didn't have them with Izzy. So the fact is, if you're fighting a guy like Izzy, you have to, if we can't get the takedown, we need a position where we're dominant. Whether or not he's on the floor or not doesn't matter. Keep him on the cage, shoulder, do something. But it just seemed as if Vettori didn't have an answer to anything once wrestling failed.
There was no second gear.
No,
there was no
second gear, no plan A, B through Z. It was only respond to what Izzy did.
And double leg.
I
thought going to the fight, Vettori could have weared on Izzy. I thought not even just the takedown, but I thought just the control, octagon control. I thought he landed on Izzy too. Like he would land on Izzy, but he just like he wouldn't follow up with what he's doing.
See, the thing about landing on Izzy is Izzy fades first. If he sees your hit coming, he fades with it so that way it doesn't give him as much damage. So he's landing, but is he doing damage? Is the other thing, right? Then the other issue you have to worry about is while you're landing, can he counter you? Which you saw some very interesting counters, right? You saw some question mark kicks over the right shoulder, which is interesting, which is a very awkward way to throw it, but he was trying to land that, right? Then you saw a body kick here and there if he could land it when he stepped in, right? So he had to worry about a lot. And I think at the end of the day, Vettori realized that Israel's not unbeatable, but he didn't have the tools this night to beat him.
Toby Green says, I think we have seen the panic hit Izzy's opponents when they can't take him down, but there are habits in Izzy's striking habits can be exploited, like the L step he loves to using or his tendency to pull. Also, Izzy loves to throw the uppercut, or he loves to fade back and throw the
hook.
Yeah, like what he called Whitaker with, right?
Yeah,
he called Whitaker, right? Like those moments with a wrestler, like a Vettori, those are moments where you think, okay, I'm going to level change and go for a takedown there when he's not against the cage. To where now Izzy have to scramble his back to the cage again, and when you can find ways to get his back or find ways to get in top position. Like those moments where he's fading back and he's trying to land another shot, those are times where you could try to level change or try to go on the inside and get him. You know what I'm saying?
Check the leg kick, please. Oh my God.
Yes. This fight, the fight IQ of his opponents haven't been the best. Yes, agreed. Who was the last, like, would you say IQ, Elijah?
Kelvin had the best. Kelvin, in my opinion, Kelvin is the only person to make Israel Adesanya decisively lose rounds. Now, whether it's going back and forth or there's little activity like the Yoel Romero fight, sure, you could say he lost rounds to that's fine, right? But to lose rounds where you've gotten beaten, we think that someone hit you more than you hit them. In exchanges, they hit you, they stopped you, they stumbled you, they have hurt you. There's only one man to do it, and that's Kelvin Gastelum. There's no other person.
Hey Flat, how you doing? Flat, listen to you guys in the background while I work. Oh, good
Nice.
Good seeing you. I think you're right on that. I think a Robert Whitaker fight with this kind of transition. To this. I think a Robert Whitaker fight is way interesting now because there's things that Robert Whitaker can do, and I think this Robert Whitaker who is motivated, who is healthy, who is the wear and tear. I feel like he kind of got that off of him. He kind of got his body to heal after all the injuries, after all the health issues, stuff like that. I feel like he's finally in a better place in his life, and mentally and physically. That fight had me interested because there's moments in this fight that Izzy has where it's like, against a Robert Whitaker who has the best IQ out of everybody you mentioned. I think he could be the one to put Izzy away.
I am probably arguably one of the biggest fans of Robert Whitaker you ever met. I think Izzy still may get the job done.
I think so too.
However, Rob presents issues in also speed, also wrestling, strength, conditioning, striking. Toby Green says, I think Rob has potential to use his eyes and then act rather than bull rush. And I think Rob is looking great. Rob is looking phenomenal. Rob is proving that he adapts. Rob adapts to whatever fighter he fights. Now, he brings the same style, kind of sideways karate stance, keeps hands low. He does those things. But when it comes down to the crunch time, Rob puts it together. He solidifies what he needs to. He dots the I's, crosses the T's, gets a takedown if he needs to, finishes up with head kicks, uses the jab, utilizes the hook, utilizes his movement. And without a doubt, I think the only person left is Rob. I don't think anyone else right now, in my opinion, should be fighting him.
I honestly think with Rob too, like when we talk about Vettori not following up, Rob Whitaker will follow it up. Like Rob Whitaker will throw the head kick after too.
Jab, 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 hook, same lead hand, right head kick.
Where Izzy likes to fade back, Izzy likes to fade back a little bit. That head kick will be there. Like there are things, or he can also mix up his wrestling and level change. Like there are things Robert Whittaker can do in the fight where I think, yeah, man, it makes it such an interesting fight. It's such a chess match between these two.
Yeah, that, and everyone's missing this. No one attacks Izzy's body
except John.
Jan is the only one. Now, I'm not saying Robert Whittaker is going to go ahead and take him down for 5 rounds straight, but being able to mix the wrestling and the striking is what works best. I think Robert Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles, has a great shot in the rematch.
And this is also important to say, not just take him down, but for me, I know Izzy can work on the ground.
Izzy can work.
That's not my issue with Izzy. Issue with it is okay against somebody that knows how to move on the ground, how to transition on the ground, how to like Vettori got him to the ground, but he stood there and he stayed there. There was no next step. Rob would have a next step.
To Vettori's credit, Vettori tried to go to mount, it didn't work. He tried to take his back and sink in the rear naked, it didn't work because Israel. At the moment that he tried to do those things, they had already become sweaty, and Israel could obviously see through that.
Vettori also rushed it.
Vettori rushed a lot of positions. I think, grand scheme wise, Robert being the smaller guy, being able to stay, being a black belt, things like that. I think Rob being a slicker jiu-jitsu guy than a lot of these guys. Rob doesn't use his jiu-jitsu, so I don't know. I'm excited. Toby Green says Izzy has got the experience, though. It's not like old Khabib is so much more beatable before he upped his striking game. Same thing for Izzy. I think his active has been a massive reason for his growth. I agree. Izzy's one of the more – it seems like Izzy's fighting almost every 4 to 6 months. Am I going crazy?
I think that's accurate. I think that's accurate.
Maybe we could even say 6 to 8, right? Depending on the timing. But it seems like he's staying consistent. He's staying active. He's definitely running with the fact that there's 3 African champions, right?
That's a big reason, I think. That's a big reason, I think.
He's that good. He's just that good. So, overall, I'd love to see Robert Whittaker get another crack at Izzy. I'd love that.
I think that's where we're going. I think we're going to Robert Whittaker versus Izzy Adesanya next. But let me ask you this. Before we just go to Vettori and what's next for him, staying on Izzy for a second. Where do you stand on this performance? Do you think this is a good performance for Izzy?
Yes, it's a good performance. It's a good performance, right? Because the word good solidifies the fact that he was able to beat him. He implemented his game. He did everything we knew he would do. Was this Izzy's best showing?
Yes.
No. But
I agree.
Izzy left no doubt in my mind from the first fight. Because the first fight we watched and we were like, yeah, Izzy won that. It was close, but Izzy won that, right?
Yeah.
And we knew from that moment, was like, all right, there really was no say, like Izzy won, but it was a close margin. We know for a fact that he shut down that talk that guy beat him that first fight. And that's what this fight was. Izzy is now on the way, because if you look at the middleweight, I'm going to bring up the middleweight top 10, right?
Sure.
Top 10. So we have Robert Whittaker 1, Costa 2, Vettori 3, Cannonier 4.
Find this particular
Sorry, I have a Yu Hakusho.
How was that?
That was Yu. Yeah, I was watching Yu Hakusho before I joined while eating breakfast.
Oh shit.
Derek Brunson 5, Jack Hermanson 6, Darren Till 7. He's fought everybody in the top 5 except for Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier hasn't been able to get past that 3-4 range because he's lost to Robert Whittaker. And he recently fought, he's supposed to fight Calvin Gastelum. Darren Till. Flathead said. What if Flathead said? There wasn't. This wasn't the Paulo Izzy for sure, and he did well last night. Yeah, no. Well, it really comes down to how much can be done against your opponent, because Vettori's a tough guy. You got to give Vettori his credit. He was tough. He hung in there. But Izzy couldn't do the things he did to Paulo because Paulo just made all the wrong moves. Vettori made all the wrong moves to win, but he stood in there and it was a little bit more tough. But again, good show for Izzy, yes. Was it his best performance? No. I rate Kelvin Gastelum as his best performance. I rank this possibly. Sorry, Bobby. The first fight against Whitaker, the best performance. Second fight, sorry, would be what's it called? Gastelum. Third fight would be Costa. Maybe.
Okay.
Third fight, you could switch the Gastelum fight because Gastelum, he had the heart. He had his heart out there in the 5th round. But it's is what it is. Chat was this great showing for Izzy. Oh, Renegade. Oh,
okay. That's me. That's me talking chat.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, cues. But okay, for me, one of the things that has to stop is I can't give Izzy a pass on this, right? You give him a pass with the Yoel Romero fight. We give him a pass there. This fight, I can't give him a pass because I think so highly of Izzy Adesanya that Izzy likes to play the matador, but doesn't want to be the bull. And what I mean by that is Izzy will stand in there. He will fade. He will move backwards. He will land strikes on you. He will throw the leg kicks. He'll do just enough to get you to want to dance with him, and then try to catch you. But he won't lead the dance.
Yes.
And I think that's a big problem for Izzy, and I think that's something that he has to kind of correct a little bit. And Toby Green says no.
It was not a great showing. It was good, but not great.
Because Izzy has moments where, yes, you land the head kick or you land a shot that hurts the opponent or touches up or you could have followed up with. Yeah. But Izzy decides to, no, I'm just gonna go like kind of like Leon Edwards, slow and steady. I'm gonna lead the dance. I'm gonna try to hopefully come in. If you don't come in, I'm happy to just win on points, get some leg shots in, try to set some things up. But he doesn't want to lead the dance to be the aggressor. And I think that's going to hurt him in the long run in terms of gaining, not winning, because I think he'll beat a lot of these middleweights. But I think in terms of gaining fans and being more of a superstar, I think he needs superstar performances. And I think we haven't seen one since Paulo Costa.
But this is only one fight after Paulo.
No, this is after the Yan fight. But we also, off the Paulo Costa fight, we've seen the Romero fight.
No, but that's different because Izzy bumped up to light heavyweight. If we're talking strictly middleweight fights.
No, I'm talking fights in general. I'm talking fights in general.
Yeah, here's the thing. Izzy's going to have time to develop a little bit more. But Izzy's never been Izzy, to be as effective as he is with striking and things like that, Izzy needs to make you make the mistake. Which is why he forces you to he makes you try to want to get into those rage modes where he can counter and things like that. And you're right, he's the matador, but never wants to be the bull. But to his counter, he's able to do some pretty impressive things when he's not the bull. Toby Green says, I think the fight Vettori gave Izzy he had the opportunity to win if he win it with a finish, like he saw the holes in the game plan and glided to victory. Yeah, I agree. I think he took the safer route, but you also have to take into account that Martin Vettori is pretty good. Like defensively wise.
No, he is.
Israel, if you looked at it, he was also able to kind of parry a lot of Israel's jabs and hooks and things like that too. So I agree with you. I think he kind of coasted at a certain point. However, I also think matchups kind of make whether or not people are able to coast or not, right? Like, because like Leon wouldn't have done that if he didn't realize he could do that against Nate. If Leon really he should have finished Nate. You're right. But if Leon didn't realize if Leon didn't realize there was opportunity to finish, coast against Nate, I don't think he would have done it. And the same with Izzy. If Izzy knows he's going to finish somebody, then he'll finish you. But he's never going to be that guy. And this Flathead Policy says Bones did the same thing in his last few fights. It's true. Like, what do you want, right? You know how to win, so win. Now, whether or not it's an impressive win, whether it's not this big win, that's debatable. But what he's doing is essentially winning. So at the end of the day, you can't be upset. But again, in the long run, when you look back at all the fights, where it's like, he was never finishing these guys, but he's leaps and bounds of these most middleweights. So I mean, what do you want?
No, he's leaps and bounds. He's leaps and bounds against other competition. But I'm not talking about him as just wins and loss stuff like that.
It's I'm talking about the way he wins. I'm not talking about just the wins and loss. I'm talking about the way he wins.
Right, but like at the same time, though, he needs those show-stealing performances. He needs those show-stealing, like flashy, like he needs that because
That's his name.
For Izzy Adesanya to be the next star, because we're looking at who's next. Izzy needs to be that, because like he's there. He's on the cusp of being a superstar. Now, if you like, for me, right, just take this out for a second, right? So if I'm trying to sell this to other people, right, we're trying to sell, hey guys, Izzy Adesanya is fighting tonight. He does this. He does this. He's the next. He's Anderson Silva. Like all that, right?
Yeah.
For me to sell it to somebody else, it needs to be like he needs to have more performances like the Paulo Costa, like a Kelvin Gastelum, like a Robert Whitaker, where he is putting these guys away. Because I think when you're having performances like this, it's hard to shell out the $76 to pay Izzy Adesanya. We don't know what Izzy's going to get. Are you going to get the Izzy Adesanya that's going to go out there and going to dismantle your opponents?
He does that in general. The dismantling happens in general, right?
Yeah,
it's whether or not he gets the finish.
Yeah, and I just think, man, like there were moments in this fight he probably could have put Vittorio away, especially with the leg kicks. And I just think he just needs that extra oomph, that extra just something to get him towards. Yeah, I'm putting these guys away. I'm not only just dismantling you and decapitating you. I'm going to also knock you out, finish you, and on to the next one. And anybody can get it. He needs that, and then that will make him, somebody that could get 800,000 buys every pay-per-view.
I agree with the point you're making.
Yeah.
Do you think it's too early to? Are you concluding that now that he needs needs to win absolutely now, or do you need to win his next few fights? Because
he needed it last night.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Well, he also talked about. Didn't he talk about he wanted to try to finish Vittori?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes. But also with Adesanya again, the UFC's looking for the next big star.
Well, he is a big star. He's a big star. There's no way.
He's close. He's close.
He is. He's close. He's closer than most. I would say he's top three right now.
He's closer than most.
Top three.
It's honestly it's Jorge, Usman, Jorge Jones,
Ngannou. I'm throwing
Ngannou's not a star.
Cap. I'm not a star. Let me know if I'm wrong in saying that.
Ngannou is not a star.
Okay.
He's not.
All right.
He's not. What pay-per-view numbers have you seen Ngannou do yet?
He hasn't had a fight at heavyweight, but he hasn't had the fight. He hasn't defended his title yet, right? But so I said heavyweight. I meant to say as a heavyweight title fight. He fought. He beat Miocic.
Okay.
He's beating and starching these guys as the biggest guy. He has the look. He has the build. They're building him as the African champ. It's unfair to say he's not a star. Does he have as much star power as these other people? No. But is he not? You can't say he's not a star. That's cap. That's cap. I'm sorry. And I don't agree with that statement. There's nothing you're going to say to make me agree with it.
Okay.
You think that.
Okay. Let me change it.
Yeah.
John Jones, superstar.
Perfect.
Kamal Usman, superstar. Jorge Masvidal, superstar. Ngannou is a star. He is not a superstar.
That's fine. Say that.
But a star in the UFC, this is where we're at in the world right now in the UFC, is that a star could have gotten you 800,000 buys or whatever back in the day, right? Or got you 500,000. Mm-hmm. A superstar gets you that numbers now. So even now, like, you being a star is not enough to move the needle. You have to be a superstar to actually move the needle, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not
disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you about him not being in the needle. First off, I really truly think that if Jones didn't bump up the heavyweight, not only would Ngannou be fighting more.
Yes.
You're saying he's not a star, but he's only the comparison is because he's not fighting John Jones. If John Jones never made
no.
Listen. If John Jones never was bumping up to heavyweight, John Jones retired completely, we would see the movement of Ngannou trying to get those fights, trying to get those things, and he would have that star power that you so-called claim that he doesn't have. But because the fight with Jones has not happened, and we only want to see the fight with Jones, we can't necessarily say, oh, well, he has the star power yet, because he's not going to fight. He's going to fight one guy and then possibly fight Jones, but we don't want to see him fight Derek Lewis.
I do. I do.
I mean, you want to see him fight Derek Lewis before he fights Jones?
No, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
Like, Derek Lewis is a good replacement because I think Derek Lewis.
I think
Derek Lewis can be. I think Derek
Lewis bigger star than Ngannou. Yes.
I think Derek Lewis could be a superstar.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
But you see what I'm saying, though? Like
I do.
But there are things Ngannou has to like. Ngannou doesn't have he doesn't have the personality. He doesn't have that. Like Kamaru Usman has that. Now he does. Yeah. Izzy has that. John Jones has that. Jorge Masvidal has that. You have to have not only the performances, you have to have the clips. Yes, he does, but he has to have the clips. You have to have.
What are you talking about?
Listen. He has to have the clips. He has to have the personality. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to sell.
He doesn't talk as much. We don't see him with a lot of camera time. I'll give you that.
No, he has a great story, but he has you have to do all these things in order for you to be a superstar. And Ngannou is not that
star to superstar. So I agree with you then. But if it's unfair for you to say that he's not a star because he is a star. Knockout wise, the man spent a total of maybe less than what I want to say 15 minutes in the octagon his entire career.
Okay, but like again, a star today is different from what it was years ago. Like a star today,
Tyriece, I'm not disagreeing with you, but but
how much is a star then? Like if we're keeping it 100, how much is a star now? Like if you're a star in the UFC, okay, and you need some like you
agree with me. The fact that we already agree, it's fine. Like I don't.
You're not getting what I'm saying. You're not getting what I'm saying. But cool.
I do get what you're saying. You're saying you know what? Let's just move on then.
Because again, Izzy is a superstar in the making, but he needs to put a cap to these finishes, to these wins, to bring him to that superstar level to where if you're paying $76.
I agree. Stars for different stars and different reasons. That's fair to say because I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I've said from everything you said, but you bring up stars, then you bring up superstars. Then you say, what is a star?
Hold on.
What is it? You made 3 different points in that talk. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's stars for different reasons, and that's okay. Now, when you bring in superstars, it's different. Toby Green said, my hot take is Izzy has become a star off his mic talk and fights, and Francis Ngannou is 90% KOs and now getting more comfy selling himself. Thank you, Toby Green. Stars for different reasons, my point. Thank you. I will agree.
No, he agrees with me.
He says Tyreece is on the money, Nate Love. Tyreece is on the money ignoring that Nate Love. Man. I don't know.
And Flat Politics says the Black Beast, NateDiaz need to have that Conor McGregor, but they all love. Yes, perfect. But you also to that effect, and I do think NateDiaz is a superstar. Don't get it fucked up. I think NateDiaz is a superstar.
I think NateDiaz is a star. I mean, superstar. I agree with that.
But again, it's not just the knockout power and the wins.
It's the selling.
You have to encapsulate. You have to put everything all together. And I think Izzy. My main point was that Izzy has everything to be a superstar. He just needs to cap these performances. And I think he will be somebody that you will pay your money to see, and a casual person I'm gonna sell this to and say, hey, you need to watch this fight. They will say, you know what? I know Izzy got a sign. He will knock these guys out. He's gonna be like the Matrix. I'm gonna watch that fight. That's my main point.
I never disagree with that point. We talked about Ngannou. That's why we got sidetracked. I said I agree. I think he does need to. I just wondered if you think that needs to happen now or if you think that needs to happen later. But then again, when you think about when he joined the fight game, he joined the fight MMA game later as opposed to earlier. Izzy's 33 at this point, so Izzy's probably got another 2 years of
32. About to be 32 in July.
He's probably got another 2 more years of being in his prime. So if we're going off that original statement that he has potential to be a superstar, I agree. But he's a star as is. And I think there's other people who are stars at this moment for different reasons. Now, again, Izzy's talk and bravado really did catapult him. I agree with that statement. But he could be a superstar. He could be a superstar. He's not there yet. I agree with that.
And with this, right? For Izzy, they're pushing him to be a superstar. You're saying right now, you said right now he's a star. just now. You said he's a
Is
star.
Is he a star?
Yes.
I think he sells. When you hear the name Stylebender, right? You're getting them. First off, he has merch outside of UFC. He's doing collabs with other brands and things like that. So he's a star. I think he's gotten that star power. But if the conversation that Toby brought up in one of the earlier chats here was that there's a difference between being a star and then going to try to be the GOAT. Now, if you want, there's different conversations to be had. If you, like you said, if you want him to be the superstar, he has to definitively finish these people. He's already leaps and bounds against them, but he has to definitively go, wow, I'm knocking these guys out. This is easy. That needs to happen. I agree.
Yeah, I for me, again, it's not that it's not just that it's not just that he's a star, right? It's the fact that UFC is pushing him to be a superstar. That's the difference. Is that when the machine is pushing you to be a superstar, you now have to get to that superstar level. So it's not. So you saying in this fight or the next couple of fights is no. It's now because the UFC is pushing him to be a superstar. So that's what
I didn't say if he had to. All I did was ask you if he needs that now or does he need that later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying because the UFC is pushing him as a superstar. So when you have these performances like he against Vettori, like he did with Joe Romero, you're hurting yourself, and now you're losing that. Like you may have lost some buys from in the future. You may have lost some buys after this Vettori fight. You know what I'm saying now? Like when the machine is actually pushing you and they're trying to make you into a superstar, you have to deliver on that now. And that's the pressure of being in that spotlight. But it comes with a fucking great reward with you being paid more, with you getting more sponsorship, with you getting more attention. Izzy has to get to that level. And I can't he's too good of a fighter and too good of a performer that I think he needs to go out there like against Vettori and be the matador. I mean, be the bull and not be the matador. That's my main point in this.
That's fine. The question is, with his style, how does he do that? It's interesting to say.
Anderson Silva did it.
Anderson Silva did it off of mostly being the matador, and then when he bumped up to light heavyweight, the matador again, and then went for the kill. I don't think it's impossible. Anderson did it over time.
Anderson was the matador, but also the bull. He could be the bull. He could be the one that'll turn it up.
Listen, the comparisons, I agree. I think this is a great way to say that he could do this, but I don't know if it happens. I just don't know. That's the other thing.
We don't know. We don't know. And but I'm just I'm speaking for somebody that actually that again, I'm not hating on Izzy. I love Izzy.
No.
I think Izzy is a phenomenal talent. I think Izzy is somebody that we need. We need an Israel Adesanya right now for the UFC. Especially when you're paying $76 to watch these cards. I just think Izzy, to me to sell us to a casual fan, Izzy needs to put these guys away and to be the bull at times. That's my main point. Toby Green says, "Are we judging a star from how he pulls the non-MMA fan? Izzy has the MMA fans hooked, but not the normies. I think that's a fair criteria to think. Yes, Toby Green, yes. Because when the machine in the UFC, or anything, but any other company, but when they're promoting you and pushing you as, hey, you're the next Anderson Silva, which everyone when you see Anderson Silva, you think MMA. When you're pushing somebody as the next Anderson Silva or this guy that is in the Matrix and does all these crazy moves and has all these highlights, when you buy the pay-per-view, when the casual buy the pay-per-views, that's his first impression. That's your first impression. So when you see a performance like Vettori and you see Israel Adesanya control and dominate Vettori, but not take it to the next level and try to put him out, or Yo Romero, for example, again, that's where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna pay for another Israel Adesanya card. That's what I'm saying. It's like when you're being put in that spotlight and that level, you have to deliver on these times, and not everything's gonna get a knockout, but at least the attempt that you're going for it.
I'm gonna tell you this now. I'm excited as a person who obviously continues watches Izzy and has been watching him. I don't think a lot of Izzy's again. Izzy just doesn't have that fight style where he's developed that he can do that right away, right? Like you had Anderson Silva doing, catching guys with flying knees, getting into a clinch, destroying dudes. Has Izzy ever? I agree with you. UFC is making a mistake and hurting him, but Izzy to a T has never really been that guy.
Izzy come from the kickboxing world.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about his record in UFC.
But I think Izzy is capable of that.
I'm not saying
that's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying he's not. I don't know if we're gonna get. You're saying that you think he's capable of that. I agree with that. I'm saying I just don't know if we're gonna get that every single time. This is all the points adding up to the same thing. That's all.
We're being a dead horse there, but I hope Izzy gets to that because I would love for Izzy to cross that million mark by himself. I would love to see Izzy be the highest selling pay-per-view by himself. I would love to see Izzy in that Conor McGregor level. Izzy can't do that off of his performances. That's
and I agree. I don't know if he's going to be able to break past that. He's going to be able to coast, and that's the thing. He's always going to have that ability to coast against certain people because he's good enough to be better than people, but I don't know if he's going to always want to go for that finish. Unless we see something different in the next fight.
Maybe he has Rob Whittaker to deal with, so Rob Whittaker is going to go for the finish. He's somebody that's going to go for a broke. So
Robert says he doesn't. He's like, I get in there, I'm going for the finish.
Yeah, so I can't wait for that. But man, that was UFC 263. Those other fights on this card, I poor Jamal Hill, dislocated elbow. Paul Creed does a great job pulling guard. I think once he pulled guard, I think that was honestly it because you see him hold that elbow, and you just see it from there. Just like it was nothing he could do about it.
Once he wrapped that arm bar. Well, we talked about this. We said Jamal Hill's best chance is to win on the feet. If he goes to the ground, it's Paul Craig's game. That was it. There's really no if in between. The experience of Paul Craig is just we all thought was better. Great arm bar. Great arm. He slapped it on as quick as possible. I was like, wow, that's technique.
Yeah. I reached out to Jamal Hill. We'll see what happens. But yeah, his arm looked nasty, but it was a dislocated elbow. So that's good.
And not broken. Dislocation's better than not being broken sometimes, depending on how it is. But we'll see.
Shout out to Brad Riddell, who I know you're really high on.
Brad Riddell.
Dober.
I think that was probably one of the best fights of this year. Top 7, maybe top 10 fights of this year so far. I think that was back and forth. I really enjoyed the fight. They mixed up striking with wrestling very well. Riddell's tough, edged it out, but Drew Dober, man, I think Drew Dober has hands. That's the thing. He has hands and he has power, and I think he's going to be a problem for a little bit longer. I don't know.
Yeah. Overall, what would you give this great card?
This card's an A. There's no way this card's not an A.
I'll give it an A. I thought the main events, even though I criticized the performance from Izzy Adesanya, he definitely did prove that Vettori can't beat Izzy Adesanya.
It's not that Izzy can't beat these guys. Can Izzy finish these guys that he's supposed to finish? That's going to be the.
Moreno had a great moment with him being Dennis Figueiredo, and then that I think he is a star in the making. Leon Edwards defeating NateDiaz, but NateDiaz having that fifth round again. Toby Green, say what you want. Watch it on VOD. We talk about it, but that boy never count on NateDiaz. And again, I think
you said never count on him. Never count him out.
Oh, it's never count him out. Never count. Sorry, we've gone 2 hours long so far. This is the longest. This is the longest thing we ever done. I thought a great performance all around. Lauren Murphy's probably gonna fight Bellator Championship next. So, bunch of good fights. I think it was the A plus.
Yeah. This was an A card. I have no issue with that. Flathead said A. I'd be interested in hearing Toby Green's vote before we wrap up. But all in all, we talked about this. This card had great matchups from top to bottom.
Yeah, so definitely an A plus card, worth the money. And we'll see what they follow up. Next is Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. So the hits keep on rolling with the pay-per-views. All right, guys. So that's it. We're 2 hours long. This is the longest show we've ever done. Thank you guys for joining. If you're watching this on VOD, Please like, share, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Join our Discord. It's in the chat that I put here for future watch-alongs with us for UFC events or boxing events. For next time we can talk about UFC fights or you guest appearing on the show. We would love to have you on. Signing off. My name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been MMA Renegade episode 9. Have a nice day, guys.